Hello parents. This is going to be a kind of a quick video, I hope, on the PLP and what kind of it involves. We're having a meeting in a couple weeks to go over this way more in depth, but your kids are coming home with work that they've done in this, and you might want to be able to check up on them and see what they're doing every day. So this is the basic. When they log in, it comes to this dashboard. The navigation's over here on the left, the main kind of navigation, and it takes them to this current screen. Under each subject, it has big blocks. These big blocks represent the projects that they're working on in each of those subjects. Math and science have separate projects, and the English and history, those go together to make one single humanities project. And underneath those projects are focus areas. A lot of kids call these the playlists, but these focus areas have to do with the projects, and they are color coded to kind of tell if they've completed them ahead of time or where they're at with those. I'm going to skip over here on the left to the learning continuum. The learning continuum is a place where you can see where the subjects are going. So this example is in science, and here we are in 7th grade science, but you can kind of see what's going on in 8th grade, 9th grade science. Not so much so that they can, blaze through 7th grade and go through 8th necessarily, because we aren't really throwing the 8th grade curriculum that we want and the core knowledge, everything into this 8th grade, but they can kind of take a look at what's coming up ahead. The most helpful view over here, actually the grades over here, this is helpful, although this is not going to be super helpful for a while, because it'll kind of take a while to get going and for them to start completing work before these things actually start looking like it's measuring any progress. The most helpful view is on the left, and it's this here. This has a nice little blue band that goes down through all the subjects, and it helps the kids to really keep track in when things start, when they end, and how they're progressing through those things. So you can see here everything's kind of, if we look at English, things are color coded. So green represent. Actually, let me say what each of these things are first. When you look at each subject, okay, I'll use English as the top. These bigger ones up top, these are projects. So these are projects that we're doing during project time. And then you have these power and additional categories down here. These are the power focus areas and the additional focus areas. All three of these contribute towards the student's grades. The projects are worth the most, and then the power, and then the additional are worth the least amount of their grades. And so as they're plodding along throughout the year, what I've been recommending is don't necessarily look at the beginning of where the beginning of these things start to decide what to do next, because what you really want to look for is where these end. These power and additional focus areas the students are working on, those are worked on during their independent time. These projects we all work on together during the project time. So if you're looking at these English, this audience and purpose power focus area, that was really the first one that we should have started, because just power is worth more of the grade. And then we'd really want to start on the reading strategies to this additional one, just because this one, although it's worth more of your grade, it has a later due date. So you want to kind of work on completing this one before this one. You might notice that this one is orange, and that's because this represents the orange filled in color would represent someone who has taken the content assessment for this area, but they haven't mastered it yet. So they may have taken it once and maybe they got a 70% or something like that. They haven't mastered it yet, but they're just still working on it. And so, you can kind of see how this student is working ahead, because we're not even halfway through until this is really due, and they've already attempted it once. So they've got some more work to do, but you can see how they have completed these two. They've completed one in science, one in English. They're clearly working on another one in English, but we don't have anything going on in math or history yet. Um, let's see. The challenge ones, you might see challenge ones. Those don't contribute towards the grade, but they are playlists or focus areas that could be completed after the power and additional focus areas, kind of just as a challenge. A lot of times you might think of this being stuff that the students might be expected to really prepare if they are looking to take AP courses in the future, something like that. I'll come back to this in a second, but over here on the left, you'll also see goals. Everyone sets goals. Now, this student hasn't set the long-term goals yet because that's something that in my class, and I'm making this video, so in my class we're doing these this week and they haven't been mentored yet, but they will select a type of college. I'll go down to the college thing so you can check that out. And what they look at is they select a certain type of a college, a selective college or a more selective, and if I'm not going to click I'm ready, but it gives a breakdown when you click on these. Once they've done this, up at the top it gives a summary of what percentage of your class you might need to be in, and it breaks everything down. What GPA you're expected to have in the future, what your test scores should be in the future. If you're looking at an extremely selective college, it says your GPA should be 3.97, and your ACT and SAT scores, those should be extremely high. They have a chance to work on letters of recommendation, and it's really where they're picking certain I lost the words, character traits and kind of study skills that they want to work on throughout the year, and they do that in their essay as well. So all of these, we walk them through setting really long-term goals that of course can be changed, but also shorter-term goals, things that they want to focus on that year. And when the students are in their goals tab over here, it actually shows up all right here. So they have their long-term goals over here. They have there is habits of success, and they can type in their own passion so they can keep track of what they're interested in. And then over here it has the long-term goals that they set for that year, which is also in that college area. And over here on the right, they have, I'm not going to expand this because I hid it because this person's actually been using these, but these action items, you can enter in a goal. They can enter in goals each day and they give themselves a deadline. This is what I use in my class. So every day when the students come in, they're supposed to write a SMART goal at the beginning of their PLT time for what they hope to accomplish that day. And they set the due date by that date. Some of them actually even set multiple ones, maybe before lunch and after lunch goals. But then I also set, during my mentor meetings, one of these with them every week. And finally, there is a reflections, and I'm going to just look at this super quick. I'm scanning this really quick. Everything looks pretty good here, but looking for names. They can also do reflections, so they can type in reflections here. They can even tag reflections, so they can tag them with certain subjects. And so a lot of times what I've said, hey, if you have a question, and maybe I'm in the middle of a mentor meeting and you need to wait 10 or 15 minutes till I can come over and help you out one-on-one, or you just want to move to a different subject that day and come back to it the next day when you'll have more time to get some help. You could enter a reflection. You could tag it with that subject, and you can come back to your reflections and look at kind of where you left off the day before, or what you were struggling with, or what you think you wanted to work on the next day. It's a good place to kind of keep track of what you're doing. Finally, we're going to get to actual look at some of these projects. So I'll actually go to this. I'm going to go to this audience. I'll go to this audience and purpose. This has already been completed. And so what happens is in each focus area, the kids oftentimes call them playlists, they have a content assessment. They start off with a diagnostic assessment, and that kind of just gives a couple questions, not to tell whether or not they know all the content already, but whether they're kind of ready to dive in, and maybe give them a little bit of guidance. And you didn't really score. It breaks it down by areas, so this has the three objectives up here. They're also represented over here on the right, and it can give them a good idea of, you really struggled in this one particular objective. You might need to go back and do a little bit of review from concepts maybe we talked about the year before, but to kind of feel 100% ready to do this. And then as we go on, we have audience, purpose, defining audience and defining purpose, and identifying and defining purpose. And you can see how we have some intro materials that kind of covers everything, but then we actually have one different objective: understanding audience, understanding purpose, and identifying purpose down here. And these are the three objectives for this focus area to learn. And so as they work through these, they fill out, they can take notes, they make projects, posters, make videos, pick collages, Kahoots, all sorts of things. And they present that evidence to us that they've showed it, and then they can request up here that they take a content assessment, and we check out what they've done, maybe ask them a few questions, and let them take that content assessment. As a parent, you can also over here, you can click the review to review the last test, or you can click see all assessments. And a lot of times, a lot of the students will take the diagnostic a couple different times just because it comes up with different questions each time. And so it's another good way to practice. And so you can actually go review the assessments that have been taken. I'm not going to do that because this is actually someone's page. Let's go back to a project. If I go to a math project, no, this one's kind of basic. Let me find one more in depth. Here we have our first science project that they've been working on. And we just started turning things in today, so you might actually see some of these little bubbles that are lit up. But basically how a project works is sometimes people are doing things independently, sometimes we're doing it as a class. It's all different every single day. But as we work towards our final product, which is at the top of making a comic book, we turn in checkpoints. So each one of these checkpoints, the students actually have an opportunity they can click this, it loads a document, they can submit it for feedback, and we, the teachers, give them feedback. And these little bubbles light up either red, yellow, or green, kind of saying, hold up, stop, you need to change something, or you're not doing this correctly. Or a yellow is kind of, we left you some feedback, you need to go look at that before moving on. And a green is kind of, you're good to go, you can move on to the next checkpoint. And so each project will look different and it'll have a different number of checkpoints, but we walk through these checkpoints together until we create the final product. And on the right, you can see what the point of the project, what the project is, what the question, what we hope that the enduring understanding is. And it also addresses the different cognitive skills that the students are being graded on for this project. So this particular one is making connections and inferences. You see there's actually a checkpoint just on that. Modeling, there's a whole checkpoint just on that. And also narrative, organization, and precision, which are things that are kind of just addressed previously or in all of them together. So this video is way longer than I thought it was going to be. I know it's a lot, but I just kind of wanted to throw something out there again so you could maybe be a little bit more familiar with what's going on and hopefully feel a little bit more confident until the parent meeting. So hope this helps.